You don't need to be the best IT specialist in the world to get into the best tech companies. In fact, your skill or knowledge does not matter. I work as a software engineer at Intel, and I'm going to tell you exactly what you should focus on to land that exceptional job in the IT you've always dreamed of. Well, listen, the IT job market right now is really competitive. Huge companies are experiencing crises, and they fire literally thousands and thousands of people. Since 2022, IT corporations have fired more than 100,000 of people. And these companies include Google, Meta, Amazon, Intel, Microsoft, and other giants. And because of the recent layoffs, the job market is flooded right now with experienced candidates, and they have 5, 10, 20 years of experience. Companies are also firing HR people. That means there are actually fewer people to go through your application and to get you to that interview round. This is why many applicants are just getting cold rejected with no specific reason. You might probably have a question in your head. As a young man with no or almost no experience, how do I compete with such experienced people? And how do I prove to HR that I'm worth moving into even that first interview round? Well, let me tell you that if you play the game the right way, if you follow just a simple step-by-step process, it is still very possible to get a job in big tech. Well, let me tell you my story. I was born and has lived for 18 years in an industrial Russian city where 90% of the jobs are factory workers. And actually my mom also used to work at a factory as well. And at 18 years of age, I moved out of the city to live by myself. And now I'm 23 and I am a software engineer at Intel. So what happened in those 5 years? I did a computer science degree in Moscow and worked at big Russian IT companies for 2 years. And then I got enrolled into EU's best and world's 10th best technical university, which is Technical University of Munich. And then very soon I got a job at Intel. And by the way, if you want to know in detail how I got into Intel and TUM, just let me know in the comments. I will make a separate video for that. I got a job at Intel quite recently, only a year ago. But it wasn't the only time I've tried to get a job in an international company. About 2 years ago, I've applied to more than 100 international big tech positions. And guess what? I got 0 interview invites. So I didn't even get a chance to showcase my skills. About 1 year ago, when I started at TUM, I've applied to around 30 positions and got 2 interview invites, one of which was from Intel, as you can tell. So the conversion to an interview has become better, but now it's the highest it's ever been. Because now I get around 1 message invite to have an interview per week, and that without doing anything for it. So how does that work? From 100 applications and 0 invites to then 30 applications and 2 invites to now an invite every week without even applying. Well, let me break it down to you. Because of the current situation in the IT job market, the hardest stage of getting a job is actually the online HR screening. Over the past 2 years, I didn't get any exceptional knowledge or skills. To be honest, I just kept getting better names in my profile. From not very well-known Russian university and tech company to a very well-known worldwide university and to an even more well-known tech giant. To prove you that it's not about skill, I know a lot of people from my university in Munich that work in Google, BMW, Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Intel, and I wouldn't say that they're any smarter or more skilled than the people I've studied with in Moscow. All that to say that the name, here the university name, just that name can give you huge benefits. And I'm not saying that you should necessarily get into a good university or else you won't be able to land an exceptional job offer at some great company. No, it can also be the name of the company that stands out. For example, if you worked at Google, it is safe to say that you'll be invited in the interview stage at least 90% of the time. Also, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you shouldn't apply to your dream job if you don't have a big name in your CV. There is always such thing as luck. And there is always a chance that you surpass all of these intermediate stages and get the job you've always wanted right away. It's just on average, you do have to take several steps from where you are to where you want to be. The best strategy on average is don't focus only on mastering your skills. You don't get to showcase them anyway if you don't get invited to the interview stage. It is your personal brand that is perceived by the HR. You should catch their attention by the names they know. They don't care if you've built and deployed a social network from scratch in some no-name company, but they do care if you've changed one line in a configuration file in Google. So, how to actually improve your personal brand to get recruiters' attention? First, LinkedIn. If you don't have a profile, create it. If you have it, invest your time to make it as pretty as possible and keep it up to date. The beauty of LinkedIn is that, generally speaking, there is no point of declining connection requests. For example, I get on average 1 connection invite per day, and I accept almost all of them. Because there isn't really a disadvantage to it, but there are some advantages. First, you increase your followers count, and that adds some value to your profile. And second, the way how LinkedIn search works is that it prioritizes the results from your close network. For example, it would rather show someone who you have common connections with instead of someone who has a better fitting profile. And that's exactly why a person with the best profile in the world but 0 connections would have less job offers than someone with a weaker profile but huge network of relevant connections. All of this to say that first, the sooner you start, the better network of connections you'll have. And second, connect to people you want to be in the same position as, because their network is what led them to be in that position, and therefore will help you get there too. So the second thing you should do to become more attractive to recruiters is to increase your brand awareness. And you can do that by adding more well-known names to it. So when choosing your next career move, consider company's visibility more than anything else. For example, like money or work-life balance or anything else. I've seen so many people making this mistake of falling for quick money. When they're faced with 2 options, one, well-known company but small salary, and the second option is some random no-name company but for more money, and they choose money, it is usually when their career growth ends suddenly. Remember, your CV does not benefit from how much money you make. It benefits from how much recognition it gets. Take me for example. I had an option of staying in Russia, working for a decent salary, but I've decided to drop my job and move to Europe for university, which means basically no salary at all. But it gave me such outstanding opportunities that I couldn't have had if I stayed at my previous job. So, there are 3 main things I want you to do after watching this video. First, upgrade your LinkedIn profile and send connections to people you think are just one step ahead of you. Second, please remember to not fall for money at your early stage career. And third, look at your current situation and determine the next step that will make you look just a little bit more attractive to the recruiters. And remember, if I can, then you can 10 times better.